Hello, welcome to another video. So thank you to everyone who's been asking me to do these Battletech lore videos. I really like doing them, so it's definitely a game that I'm very passionate about, so I appreciate that you guys want to know more. I will say that I am working on them. They take a little bit of time to knock up because I sort of have to make sure I get the right balance of information and accuracy, but also keeping it relatively short. So people have asked about the Jihad and about the Great Clan Refusal and Clan Wolf and all sorts of cool stuff. So thank you for those, first of all. But I thought, you know what, I started trying to do some of those, especially I thought, let's get cracking on Word of Blake, because that's a big one. And it's hard to do, hard to just go, okay, let's get these done. Because if you're new to Battletech, you're not going to understand where we're coming from. I don't want to throw too much information at you. That's definitely one of the problems that I have found myself, is that there's too much information. So what I decided to do, let's just make a quick timeline, just the dot points, the tiny little dot points that you need to get someone started, so that we can sort of put everything into context, so we can know where these things are happening. And if you've never played Battletech before, or if you've only just got into it through MechWarrior Online, or the Clicks game or something like that, and you're not sure of exactly where things lie in the world, this is meant to be a guide for you. Now, I was looking at this. It's going to take too long to do in one video. It'll take like half an hour, and we don't want that. I don't want to overwhelm people. I get overwhelmed trying to tell the story in that amount of time, let alone you having to listen to it. So we're just going to do quickly today. This video is going to be before the game begins, right? Which sounds like, why would you even do that? And I'll just show you real quick. I went to put together this timeline, and I went onto Sarnanet. If you want to find any extra information about anything, Sarnanet is a good spot to start. But the problem is, like I said, the problem with everything is that there's too much information. I went to do this timeline today, and look, it starts in the 15th century. This is a game about futuristic robots in space, and we're starting it back in the 15th century. Get stuffed, right? So I've gone through this entire timeline here and tried to pull out the most important points. I'll tell you the little stories about each point. Give you just the cliff notes, right? And look, so we've scrolling. Oh my god, my hand. Scrolling. Here we are. We've been scrolling for about a minute now, and we've only just reached 3025, which is where the game actually begins, right? So, and as you can see, there's so much. Wrong one. So we're going to give you just this video is just the stuff before the game begins, and then the next video will be once the game begins all the way to the end, right? So 2 parts, easy done, hopefully under 15 minutes. That's my goal, because it gets boring otherwise. Let's get cracking. So where better to start than today, 2017. Humans go to Mars, which is pretty accurate, like if SpaceX gets underway, humans will be colonizing Mars in no time at all. And so I thought that's a great place to start, because it's very similar to what's going on. Next year, these two nerds, Takayoshi Fushida and Thomas Kearney, published these theories about hyperdimensional travel, right? Basically, they say you can warp space, and you can transport things from one place to another with reasonable accuracy. And everyone says, oh, awesome, show us. And they're like, no, we can't do it on Earth because gravity and stuff. Yeah, we can't actually make it happen. We just have these theories. And everyone laughs at them. They get thrown out of, the sort of academic research. No one wants to fund their stuff. And it's really taken for, a big fuss. They're like, you two kids are stupid. You've watched too much Star Trek. Just, go and study maths or something productive. And they get ignored. In 2020, fusion reactors are finally invented in a reliable way, completed. They start getting used all around. At first to power cities, but later, they start working on building spacecraft with a miniaturized fusion reactor, and that's Magellan 1. So it has all the power it needs to propel itself through space. Off it goes. There we go, right? And now Magellan 1, it's an interstellar space probe. It's designed to go from, Earth to another star system in a way that is going to happen within a person's lifetime. So if we currently tried to do that, we would have a lot of trouble, right? They've used this fusion power to launch it. It goes off towards Tau Ceti, which they call New Earth, and they'll start calling Earth Terra. And 24 years later, it arrives. Now, we've got these humans on Mars, we've got humans throughout our solar system mining stuff on Jupiter and in the asteroid belt and all these different stuff, and humans are starting to leave Earth. So it's decided to form like this global government in 2086, right? People are starting to think about, where can we go from here? Where's the next spot, that we're going to have to deal with? And they form this alliance of Earth, right? Terran Alliance. The idea is that this government will decide how all these, celestial resources are used, and it's all gonna, you'll give some of your resources towards the Earth government, and you can go off and do your own space thing, right? They put in these different rules. It's a big deal. Now, a few years later, there starts to become an economic crash in the third world. So all these countries which have been formerly only able to scrape by enough to survive by, harvesting resources, mining, things like that, cheap labor. All of a sudden, their valuables they're decreased, right? Their manpower is decreased, and they have an economic crash. That's one of the things I love about Battletech is, sociologically speaking, it's pretty much exactly what would happen given the circumstances that unfold in the fiction world, right? So if we did finally start harvesting resources from space, of course our current economic way of doing that would crash. And now all of a sudden, back in the world, right, in the world of Battletech, we've got all these refugees. Not refugees from a war climate, but refugees from an economic crisis. And, now that we have a global government, they sort of are responsible for feeding them, right? So it becomes this weird location sort of based, I don't know how you'd explain it, but there's a weird redistribution of wealth that has to happen, and it doesn't really go according to plan. And they start realizing, we can't live on Earth this way. There's not enough resources. We're harvesting things. We can't do it. It's too... there's not enough here for us. We've sort of destroyed the Earth and pulled out as much of it as we can. There's not much we can do. So they start looking at investing in different ways to be able to, make interstellar space travel possible. So they start looking at building arcs. They start all these different things. And eventually they come across this idea for this hyperdimensional space travel thing, which is called the Kearney42 Drive, or KF Drive for short. And they go, you know what? We're going to build one. We're going to try it out. And that's what they do. So let's quickly talk about the Kearney42 Drive very quickly. So this is the core of the technology that sort of runs the Battletech world, right? This is your warp core in Star Trek, right? This is your, a hyperdrive in... Star Wars, whatever it is. This is the thing that really makes Battletech possible, and makes it possible in the way that it is. So, a ship can travel from location to location, but it must do so from an area with minimal gravity disturbance, right? So, it has to go to far away from a planet. There can't be any gravity involved, right? So, far away from a sun, even. It has to be at the right point of the sun, so there's no gravity waves. It also can't be next to an incoming ship or an outgoing ship, because they create their own gravity distortions, right? So it has to go to these jump points in space. What happens is the Fushida drive is coiled up, and the ship expands the Kearney-Fushida field, and it sort of fills it like a vessel, right? Fills it like a glass. And that field is then transported to its destination. This is instant. There's some times where it isn't instant, but it should be instantaneous. The maximum distance of a jump is approximately 20 light years, but again, it has to go to one of those locations where there isn't a gravitational distortion. Otherwise, you might have a misjump or some kind of catastrophe might happen. You don't want that. Now, the KF field coils, they disrupt the field. So, like, basically, if it emits a field and if there's another coil, it sucks the field back up, right? So you can't transport the fields or a KF drive by a jump ship because it just sucks up the thing, right? So and you can't have a backup either, which is another really important part, right? The field encompasses only the jump ship, though you can get little extension things that sort of docked drop ships can also be filled with this field. The problem is, the further you extend the field, the more dangerous it gets, the less likely the field is to be stable. The jump ship emerges at the location, and generally passengers feel a very strong dizziness. Sometimes you get sort of a seasickness, extreme seasickness for a couple of days after. It's not good for humans, right? Then, once you arrive in your destination, the drive has to be recharged. Now, usually this takes 6 to 9 days. Some later on in the Starleague era and things, they'll develop batteries which will let it do a second jump, but even then, it's a problem. So, what they've created with this, the reason why I talk about this drive in this sort of timeline that we're doing, the idea that all these different planets are going to be connected, but it takes time to get from one place to another, is very important to Battletech. Okay, this means that we go back to this frontier time where communication is possible, pre-telegraph. There isn't the ability to make those sorts of transmissions from one place to another instantaneously. So you go back to having like this, old Western Union Pony Express style way of sending messages. And that's really important as sort of things start to expand, because if you can't send a message instantaneously, you can't govern an area. Okay, and that's, again, sociologically speaking, that's a sound idea. And that's why feudal systems occurred as sort of expansions were happening in our Middle Ages. And that's exactly what happens here, right? We go into this age of expansion, and there's no way to communicate, so they sort of assign this feudal, ruling system. So keep that in mind. I just wanted to share that because that's kind of important to understanding this. So in 2107, there's a jump ship that's built, and it does its first hyperspace jump, right? In 2110, they go to New Earth. They build an outpost. A colony follows on New Earth. In 2120, the Terran Alliance build this navy. Now, a lot of people in the world are asking, what's going on? Why are they building this navy? Who are they going to attack? There's no aliens. What's going on? But it clearly becomes that the Terran Alliance is scared of its people, right? And in order to keep them in line, it builds these warships so that it can, protect itself from its colonists, right? So they build this big navy. Once the navy is complete, they start what's called a grand survey. First Alliance Grand Survey, where they go out and they start scouting for planets, looking for and they record all the different resources on a planet in a system, all the different habitable planets, all these different things. Shortly after that, that information comes back. They settle a planet called Tikhonov, right? And they build, it's the first sort of settled planet, and then others see that this is a possibility, and they start to settle all these different planets all around the various areas of the galaxy, and this starts to become clear. This is how things are going to happen, right? They continue on and continue more and more surveys. The Second Alliance Survey, the Third Alliance Survey, and all the while they're building this big, massive spaceship navy, right, to sort of do this and to show people, look, we have the resources, we're in control, we're the ones with all the information. If you want stuff, you come to us. Well, 2234, a planet called the Nebula realizes, you know what? We've got everything we need here. Why are we sending our resources to the Terran Alliance? Why are we following their rules? If we want to do things our way, why would we not do them our way? Like, what do they give us? They give us nothing. So they say, you know what? Screw you, Terran Alliance. We're independent women. We have our own, resources. We don't need none of you. And Terran Alliance goes, No, they're realizing they don't need us, right? And they don't like it. So they, once that sort of message gets out there, they're like, all right, fine. Well, let's do one final grand survey where they go, this is the extent that we're going to explore, right? We have this planned already. All our ships are going to do that. But also, on the way, a bunch of them are going to stop off at Denebula and just attack it. Because screw you, you don't get to leave the Alliance. And the War of Independence begins. They start attacking, and Denebula start trying to attack back, but they're not very successful. And it's a rough fight. But other planets see this, and they're like, whoa, that's not cool. Government shouldn't be attacking its people. And this is particularly led by people in sort of the area, which is known as will be known as the Republic of Marek, right? And one of the leaders from this area sort of says, you know, we're going to unite all of our local area, right? So I'm going to go to all the different leaders of the planets, and we're going to start a rebellion. We want to be independent too. And when they attack us, we're going to fight back. It's not okay to attack your people. And they form this, this government between the different local planets. And they fight back, and they end up winning the battle, right? And the Alliance forces withdraw from Marek space because they're fighting so tenaciously. And they proclaim Marek as the Republic of Marek, right? And they say, you know, we have won this Outer Reaches rebellion. We are in control of this, you know. We're far from them. They don't deserve our resources. They do nothing for us. We are going to form our own government. This is the Republic of Marek. You come in here, you're coming in here under our rules. You agree to our rules. We're not part of the Terran Alliance anymore. And that ends sort of the end of the Outer Reaches rebellion. But other people say, yeah, absolutely. Why would I not, you know, run my own planet? And this begins sort of the first exodus. All these people are getting off Terra. They're off Earth, so they call Earth Terra at this point in time. You know, why would we stay? When there's a world of resources out there, you know, pardon the pun, to harvest, we can be the masters of our own destiny. So off they go. They disappear, right? And Terra just sits here and sees all these people fleeing and says, all right, you know what? Screw you guys. We're going to release the demarcation declaration. Every planet outside of 30 light years from Terra, yep, you're independent. Congratulations. We don't care. We're not giving you any help. If you don't want to be a part of our party, then you just leave. We'll look after the people close to us. Everyone else, you look after yourselves. And they stopped supporting them. And a lot of planets were upset about that because they didn't want independence because they couldn't survive on their own. And so very slowly, these sort of factions start to form, which become the great houses, right? House Marek, Davian, Steiner, and so on. And these little houses start warring with each other. And we enter what's called the Age of War, right? Now, we still haven't got to BattleMechs yet. They're fighting with tanks. They're fighting with ships. There's orbital bombardments. There's nuking everyone. And it's a terrible time. This goes on for a couple hundred years, right? And I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of this, but this is a big chunk of the fluff, is all these people just fighting each other and treating each other like crap. Civilians are getting destroyed. Eventually they end up with the BattleMech and things like that, but it's, not in this time. It's just out and out warfare, chemical warfare, orbital bombardment, attacking civilian targets, hospitals, things like this. And a group of people get together and they decide, you know what? We can't keep doing this. We can't keep destroying each other. There needs to be some rules. So some of the rules that they make is we need to have uniforms that clearly show our sides, so we know who's attacking who. We can't keep doing these false flag attacks. You have to be a bit honorable about it. Show us that. No nuking people, because that doesn't just destroy the people or the buildings, but it destroys the planet. It ruins the planet with radiation. We don't want that. No chemical warfare. No attacking civilian targets. Unless there's don't even attack a city unless there's a military target there. And they make all these rules and they call it the Ares Convention. And a group of the major house leaders, republic leaders, government leaders come together and they agree to these rules and they say, yes, we'll sign these rules. We'll agree to abide by these rules. And they do so. Shortly after that, the BattleMech is invented. and it gets deployed in a few very effective deployments. And very shortly after that, people see this as this massively versatile machine of war. And because it's got such a devastating nature and it's so versatile, like you make a tank, it's built for one specific kind of thing. But if you make a BattleMech, it can, change its, maneuverability based on what it needs. If it needs to let off some ammo to run faster, then they can do that. If it needs to, pick up extra weapons, it can do that. And so they see this, versatile sort of technology come about, and everyone starts to use it. Because of the Ares Convention, the major leaders decide, you know what, maybe we can make a government where we all can sort of agree on things and maybe negotiate things a bit better. And they call this government the Star League. And it's made up of the major sort of political movements, political leaders in that time, right? This happens in 2570. And they finally start to work out, okay, what's going on? Now, the sort of republic is led by, a single person that sort of governs everything. And the other families still have a vote and stuff, but they still need like a chairman, if you can imagine that. Now, this chairman dies. And the major houses all decide, you know what, I should be the chairman, And as a result, sort of this first succession war begins. They have, who's going to take over the Star League? And they start fighting that. Now, during this time, someone looks into the research that a company called Comstar, they're sort of like Telstra in Australia or AT&T in America, a communications company that's been sort of responsible for sending messages and transmitting them back and forth, looks into ways to become more effective, and they discover that the Kearney42 Drive, originally the creator said, it might be possible to not have to worry about the gravity, but the power you need is so immense to move a ship. It's too much, you can't do it, it's unfeasible. But if you set it up in this way, you can bypass the gravity. And what they decided was, it is too hard to move a ship, but we can send small electronical pulses, right? Boop, 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 like a telegraph, right? And then we can, that way, send data. And so Comstar invests in this idea and starts building these hyperpulse generators. Because all of a sudden, it's like the telegraph being invented, right? Like, you've gone from having no communication to being able to communicate very clearly. They very quickly start to get stock, and people start to buy credit in their company, and also, permission to send the messages, like gift cards, if you can imagine that, right? Gift card for the phone booth, like, yeah, exactly that, right? Phone booth card. And this gets known as the C-bill, right? It's a letter of credit, and that becomes, because everyone's using Comstar, that becomes a very quick measure of currency, and that becomes very important. But because Comstar is suddenly, receiving all of this stuff, especially because we've gone on now to the first succession war, everyone's fighting each other. They all still need to communicate back and forth with their people, right? But that no one knows how to use these hyperpulse generators except Comstar, right? So, they all have to pay Comstar to send their messages back and forth. So they're coordinating entire armies. Comstar decides, you know what, we're going to establish ourselves on Terra and sort of take over the Terran planet. And they shut down all the hyperpulse generators so that only they are able to sort of transmit that. And people attack them because they've sort of taken over Terra, and they're like, you know what? No one gets to use the hyperpulse generators now. We are a neutral party. We will send the hyperpulse generators to you guys. We have the activation codes. We're going to lock down technology, right? If you want to attack us, that's not okay. If you attack us, we won't let you use the transmission stuff, right? We're going to remain completely neutral, and we're going to act in the service of looking after the technology, because if you guys are attacking these things, you're blowing them up, it's very expensive to repair, and you guys don't know how to use it properly, and you all this stuff in your little stupid war. That's we're going to look after this. And that guy was called Jerome Blake, and he'll be important later on, right? He says, our goal as Comstar is to remain completely neutral and to make sure that no one else is destroying these technologies, to make sure that these technologies stay with us forever, right? Shortly after that, a dude called Nicholas Kerensky, he can see that, this succession war is going on, and it's destroying society, and it's not okay that these people are dying. And he says, you know what, I'm going to take all the best scientists, all the best military strategists, all the best, medical geniuses. We're going to take all the thinkers. We're going to take all the doers. We're going to take all the important people of society. We're going to leave, because otherwise, we're going to die, right? I want to go and start a very, safe society where this argument over who owns land is no longer a big deal. And he puts that out to his sort of, the people who he's interested in, and they all agree. They're like, this is crazy. We need to get on board with this. So they all organize to leave, and they have this massive exodus from the planet. They jump on the ships, and they don't just leave, but they take technology with them to establish a new planet, a new colony, right? And he decides this is going to be called the clans, right? He starts getting these ideas, and off they go. They disappear into the sunset with all the main technology. So all your main thinkers, all your, all the people who know how this stuff works, they're gone now. And sort of the Star League falls apart, but it kind of doesn't. And you just have these people from then on sort of having these different little battles. And every time they have a battle, even though they're not blowing stuff up in the same way that, the Ares Convention, prevents them from doing, they're still destroying technology, they're still destroying culture, they're destroying everything, right? And so you have the second succession war, third succession war. Not really, stuff happens, but who cares, right? Because we don't care until we get to the fourth succession war, which is 3028. That's sort of where the main Battletech game begins, and that's where this video is going to end, I think, more or less. So, you're in this state where they've had all these massive wars, all these world war type things going on, where they're destroying each other, and now they've got to sort of work out what to do, and that's where we come in. It's all the technology's gone. We've gone through this dark age. We have these massive machines, but we don't have the people who know how they were made. We don't understand how the fusion reactors are built. It's all automated. It's all done by robots. So we just have factories now that are doing stuff. Some people kind of know, but no one knows for sure. No one knows everything. Comstar knows, but they don't want to tell anyone. They keep it on the lockdown. They start selling, the ability to transmit messages and stuff again. But it's, very, very limited technology, and but also highly advanced technology, right? And that's I think the appeal for most people. So we're going to end this video here. The next video, we're going to pick up where the fourth succession war begins, and that's going to be sort of all the games and how things unfold from the games. I hope this has given you a sort of a good background to understanding how Battletech starts, right? And I guess you can kind of see why you need all these little background things to sort of set stuff up. But that's where we're going to go from here. I'll see you in the next video. I hope it's entertaining. If you have any other ideas for videos, please let me know. If this has been confusing in any way, please let me know. I look forward to hearing from you. Ciao for now.